Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to vinylalbumcovers.com's The Front. As always, I am Ed, and with me, as always, is Dre. Still won't say a blessed thing. All right, I had to try. And you notice today, I'm not even touching that again. We have a special guest today, guys. You can see him. He's right there. See it? It's Ed. It's Ed Bowser. He's the proprietor and mad genius behind Soul and Stereo, and a participant panelist over at the SoulBack R&B Podcast. I'll put all the links in the description. They're down there. Just look. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ed Bowser.
Thank you, Ed. We got Ed. We just need an Eddie. Dre, you want to be Eddie today? And we can we can have the whole crew. Yes, we got the whole
like joint. Tony. We got Ed, and Ed. We can do that.
Yes, like my guys. But yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for the invite, y'all. Happy to talk about an icon today.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming. I shot my shot. He came, so here we are. Yes. We'll do our best with this one. So before we get started, I just wanted to mention real quick some updates to the website. We finally have a newly added section on the website after 8 years of not having one. It's about time I did something right. So we've got that up there now. The last few albums that have gone up are Mariah Carey's Rainbow. There is a legacy reissue of it right now that's out there, but this is the original Columbia that came out 1,000 years ago. I don't know if there's any difference. It's digital. It probably doesn't sound any different. There's a really cool album that's up there now, Ahmad Jamal's Count 'Em 88, which is fantastic if you're into jazz. That trio is just ridiculous. But that's up there. That's from 1956. Thank you, Dad, for preserving that album as well as you did. There's also an album that I figured would have been reissued by now, but it's still not out there. Never Say Never by Brandy.
Yes.
It's never been reissued on vinyl. It's still not out there. This is the original vinyl, and it took forever to scan because it's metallic. But it looks fantastic. Like you've got to go check it out. All the stuff that came with it is there, the labels and everything. It's really cool. To look. Let's see, Emotions by Mariah Carey is up there. There is a reissue of that now if you want it, but this is the original from 1991. It looks fantastic. That cover is that's one of the best covers I've ever seen. Just a great album cover. It's iconic. And she's gorgeous. The soundtrack to Do the Right Thing is up there. If only for Don't Shoot Me by Take Six. That is reason enough to buy that album. It's so good. It's so good. And the We Love Prom, my gosh, it's so good. Anyway, Boogie Down by Eddie Kendricks is up. The one that has Tell Her Love Has Felt the Need and Boogie Down itself. Great album. And then lastly, We Got by Al Jarreau. If you're only familiar with the 80s stuff, go back further. He's a lot more fun in the 70s than he is in the 80s and 90s, just saying. So all that stuff is up there. And it all looks as good as I could make it look. So hopefully you'll enjoy looking at it. So let's get to today's topic. This topic was actually inspired by something that Ed said on Twitter. He was talking a bit about Michael Jackson, and of course, because time has passed, a lot of it, people are starting to forget just what kind of an impact he actually had. It's getting lost in translation, and it's understandable, but it's a shame. So we're gonna do our best in our own small little way to try to do something about that and kind of talk a bit about what it was like during that period of time, because we all lived during parts of it. So we can all share with you kind of how it felt and what the response was really like. And so I think this will be kind of a fun one here. So in terms of, let's just start it Off the Wall, which turned out shockingly to be the dress rehearsal for something that was far better later on. So let's start with our guest here. Ed, tell me what you remember about Off the Wall and kind of what you liked about it.
Off the Wall. So I'll start off by saying Off the Wall is my birth year. I was born in 79, so I came along a couple months after. But Off the Wall, and we'll get to the other albums later, my earliest music memories are all Michael Jackson. Like if you're a kid in the 80s, you know Mike. And a lot of that came from that. So one thing that I always remembered about Off the Wall, and y'all may feel me on this, if you had an aunt, you had an uncle, you saw that album in that house. And when I think of, whenever I see that album cover, I think of that LP sitting somewhere. I think of it sitting under the desk. I see it sitting just displayed. I see a cassette. it just reminds me of childhood. So even before you get to the music, just the album cover itself is so iconic because to me, it just reminds me of growing up.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And it's interesting to note too that there are two different covers. The original LP cover is not the CD cover that's out there right now. This, if you remember, the CD cover is just the shoes, but the album cover is his face.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
it.
It's a completely different cover, and I'm partial to the album cover, the original LP cover, because it's just it's an iconic image. It's one of those things that never should have been changed. I don't know why they did it. It's just such a great looking album.
I don't know either, but again, it's just for, I don't know if it's nostalgia or what. I love the original because that's what I remember. When I think of it, that's it for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Both are dope.
What'd you say, bro? I'm sorry.
Oh, both are dope. I have like no beef with either one, but when it comes to my memories, I'm always gonna lean. I'm gonna be partial to my nostalgia. Got to go with that.
Yeah. I agree with that. I'll take that. What about you, Dre? What do you think when you think of Off the Wall?
Well, he described it perfectly. Like you said, if you have an uncle or aunt, you've heard that album. As a matter of fact, I have a great aunt. She had a picture of that album cover on her wall. I don't know where she got it from, but she had it though. And obviously, even as a little kid, and I was born in '84, so I wasn't here yet when that came out. But you say being around, being around your parents and your aunts and your uncles and your great aunts, uncles, your grandma even. You heard that song on the radio. You heard them play it at parties, barbecues, or whatever. PYT is still still to this day probably my favorite Michael Jackson song. Well, I'm sorry, not PYT, but Rock With You. I'm Rock With You. Rock With You. I'm sorry. It's still probably one of my favorite Michael Jackson songs, and I remember hearing that song probably when I was about 4 or 5. So it's fairly easy to say yes, that was probably one of my earliest childhoods was probably Michael Jackson.
Yeah, agreed. I remember I was born in '73, so I'm slightly older than Ed or Dre, but I do. Even at that young age, I was about 5 at the time, and I still remember hearing Rock With You on the radio when it was new, and you couldn't escape it. Like it was on at any station, it could be programmed on. It was programmed on, and it was played multiple times throughout the day. You have to remember, this is like pre-Clear Channel. The radio stations were, when they could choose to play whatever songs they wanted to, they were choosing to play Rock With You, sometimes back to back. I mean, it was absolutely madness. Even then, this is before Thriller. Like it was still, any chance they got to play Rock With You, they did. I don't remember hearing Don't Stop Till You Get Enough on the radio because it's just slightly before me. But I do remember hearing Rock With You on the radio a whole lot. And She's Out of My Life, I remember hearing that a lot, though not as much.
Yeah.
The R&B stations were playing I Can't Help It like it was going out of style.
I bet.
Oh yeah, that and Working Day and Night. I heard a lot on the R&B station out here. Like it was madness, but a whole lot of I Can't Help It. Just so much of that song, but it's a good song. Of course they did.
And I don't think people realize how great that album sold. It still sold about like 20 million copies. This is even before Thriller, so even before that even came out, Michael was already a huge deal.
Yeah, and it's why it drives me crazy when today we try to compare today's artistry to Michael. And I'm not going to name names. You can go to my Twitter if you want to see the stage there. But when there's certain artists that we want to compare to Michael, brother, sister, cousin, it's a whole different stratosphere of artistry. Like, someone might be trending on Twitter right now.
Right.
The mania and insanity. And I mean, Ed just said, just like playing songs back to back, man, the day before Clear Channel, I can get on that. But like, you just never heard the excitement. And just not only that among music fans, like household names. Michael Jackson songs were household names. You didn't have to be a music fan to know these songs. And that's what elevates this album and a couple others on this list that we're going to talk about above so many others. It was just a worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah, that's kind of the reason that we're doing this video cast too, because it would be very easy to sit here and kind of ridicule the children, but it really isn't about that. It's just time has passed. It happens. That music was ours, and we're in a different generation now. In fact, a couple removed really from Off the Wall, being honest about it, and people have just forgotten and they don't understand. those that weren't there just don't know, and that's perfectly fine. But if you keep listening, hopefully we'll be able to make clear to you that by the time we're through, there really can't be a comparison. It's not even possible. And hopefully by the time we're done, we'll be able to adequately kind of explain why. So, okay, so I'm going to do this to both of you. So if you had to pick your very favorite song from Off the Wall.
Oh, man.
One song. Oh, yeah, I'm doing it. We going in.
Well, I kind of already gave away mine, so.
Your favorite song, Ed.
Oh, my gosh. And
oh, yeah.
Again, when I rank his albums on my site, so on stereo, I always do a section where I talk about kind of like forgotten favorites. So the songs, the album cuts, the songs beyond the singles. This album and some of these others, you can't do that because every single song there is an attachment to or got radio play. I'm just going to throw just off the top, I can't help it. If you ask me in 2 minutes, I will change my answer. But for now, it'll be I Can't Help It.
See, not really feeling you stealing my thunder because that's my choice.
Great minds, great minds. Same name, great minds.
Same name.
I mean, Stevie Wonder wrote it, so how can you not like it? You know?
Exactly. There you go.
Right. I mean, that's my time. Yeah.
You know what it is, though? It's the chord changes are just. This is back when they did this, when you could find myriad chord changes in a tune. And it could hit, it could be successful. You couldn't do that now, but back in 1979, you could do it and you could get away with it. And Stevie had no business writing a song that complex. I mean, there's just no reason for that song to be as good as it is, just musically speaking. If you look at if you're looking at it from a technical standpoint, it's just a perfectly written tune. The lyric is very intimate. Michael Jackson completely understood the assignment. Like Quincy Jones understood the assignment. Bruce Swedee and the engineer. I mean, it's just the song itself is just musical and sonic perfection. I will go further. I don't know that Michael Jackson ever did better than that song, except for maybe a couple of others. It's just that good, in my opinion.
I think that it attaches to me because there's a beauty to it. And it may be some of those changes that you mentioned. There's just something about the song that feels alive and you listen and it just keeps building and building and building. And there was conversation this week on social media about like the art of the love song being lost and we aren't having these types of songs anymore. You go to this song and let that be your blueprint because this is a song where you feel the emotion and it's not just saying it, you believe it because the production matches the tone. It's telling an overall story and it's artistry. That's all I can say.
Yeah, agreed. We can't leave out Greg Fillinganes too. I mean, the session players understood the assignment just as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All that keyboard work, just about all of it. Certainly all the Rhodes playing is Greg Fillinganes. And he has to be in anybody's top 3 greatest Rhodes players in the world. He's just a ridiculously good player with great feel. And I mean, Greg is notable because he not only did he play on all that Jackson stuff when they came over to Epic, but he also arranged all of it. That's all his stuff. He doesn't get the credit that he should get for that. But all that stuff, like Shake Your Body Down to the Ground, This Place Hotel, like all of it, those are his arrangements. They're doing his arrangements. So
and we've talked about like the history and of Michael and so many of these legends is getting lost to time because as we get older, I mean, the stories are still here, but unfortunately there's like dominant voices that are kind of constricted to one time period. So these building blocks of music, I feel like aren't getting the shine. So props to y'all for being able to continue to keep these names out here and to celebrate the folks that laid the foundation for real.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It has to be done. It absolutely has to be done. Okay, so a little more comical here, but maybe not. So if you had to pick a worst song from Off the Wall,
man,
I think I know what you're gonna say. I think I know what you're both gonna say.
It would probably have to be Girlfriend.
Really? Okay.
And but here's the thing though, I don't think there's really a bad song on this album, but if I had to pick one, it would probably have to be Girlfriend. But I like that one too, though, to be honest with you. I like it a whole lot better than The Girl Is Mine that came out a couple years later.
Oh,
a whole lot better.
Next
What?
record. Hold it. Next record.
I'm just saying I like it a whole lot better is what I'm saying though.
We're getting there. We're getting
Yeah,
to that. We're getting to that song because I know Dre wants to have a meal on that song. And
Oh my gosh.
we'll get there.
Oh man.
What's your doggone choice, Ed?
I mean, I understand the pick for Girlfriend. I don't have any. I mean, it's a 5-star classic album. I don't have beef with anything. The thing I probably listen to the least is Burn This Disco Out.
You know what? I apologize. I forgot about that. Was the last track on the album, correct?
Yep, that's the last one. That's
okay. You know what? I'll change my pick. I'm with you on that one. I forgot. I completely forgot about that.
This is very interesting because you didn't pick the thing I thought you would pick. I'm really surprised.
What was that you thought I would pick? Now I'm interested.
How did It's the Falling in Love get away from you?
That song's fine. It's not bad at all.
It's a middling little David Foster pop song, and Foster can write his face off. Don't get me wrong, and so can Carol Bear Sager. But they've both done better work. Yeah. It's just I remember hearing it and just going, nah, like it doesn't really work for me. Like there were other things undoubtedly that could have been used on the record besides that. Yeah, I get you on Burn This Disco Out, really I do. But and I don't dislike Girlfriend, but It's the Falling in Love. It's like one of these things is not like the others, and to me, that's the one that feels the most out of place.
I understand what you're saying on that. I can feel you on that, but I actually do rock with that one a lot harder than Burn This Disco Out. Again, no beef. The song is fine, but it's just of all of them that if I had to skip one, that might be my one mini skip.
I feel you because it is kind of like a Rod Temperton templated kind of thing.
There you go. Yeah. It feels very formulaic.
Like that's it. It doesn't feel particularly organic. It just feels like the formula. We need a track that does this, so give me that.
Right. That's it.
That's what he did. And speaking of that approach, so I think the best part about Off the Wall is that Off the Wall felt like fun. Like it felt like they went into the studio. They all did. Bruce Swedien, Rod Temperton, all of them, Quincy obviously, and Mike. They went into the studio and just had fun. It feels, with the exception of the aforementioned duet, it feels like a fun record. The whole thing is just fun. Even when you get to like She's Out of My Life, it just feels like, let's try this and see if this works.
Right.
And it worked better than they could possibly have imagined. And the crying was all very real, by the way. At the end of the tune, he was legitimately crying. They did take after take of it, and Quincy could not stop him from weeping at the end, and so they kept it in. So that's real, legit crying.
And it's Michael's coming of age album because a lot of people also forget that this wasn't his first solo album either.
No.
Yes.
There were albums before that were kind of, they were just kind of there, but this album was so good that people forget that wasn't his first album as a solo artist.
Agreed. I have to argue this all the time because people just think that he just came out of the sea with Off the Wall. I'm like, dude, there are plenty of other albums. You're right. Most of them are so. I like Gotta Be There. I thought that was cool. But most of the other ones, But this is his coming out party for sure. Yeah,
this is adult Michael. This is Michael as an adult,
Right. This is Michael with control.
Yeah, this is him.
That's the important part.
Like his sister.
That control here. He did very much like Janet. Yeah. Well, maybe not, but because it's questionable how much control Janet actually had, because that sounds like a Jam and Lewis band featuring.
Well,
Janet.
But I mean that was still her coming of age album. That's her.
All day.
Kind of like with Michael with Off the Wall. It's kind of the same premise.
But you can feel the control that Michael exerted on that record. It doesn't feel like all this stuff is happening around him and he's just there to sing.
Yeah.
Like he had control. He wrote Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Although he didn't write it by himself. Shame on you for stealing Greg's copyright, but there you go. Because that bridge is not Michael Jackson. You know the bridge I'm talking about with that solo in it. Those are Greg Fillingate's chord changes. If I had ever heard them, how dare you?
I love it. The shade is thick. I love it.
So I gotta say this. So they put the 45 out when the single came out. I had a friend who had the 45. His mother had the 45. The Orange Epic label and the whole nine. The original label in the 45, the writing credit said Michael Jackson and Greg Phillinganes because it was supposed to. But then somewhere along the line, Michael decided that he wanted all the cash flow from it. And he decided that that bridge, that's a written musical bridge, was an arrangement trick and nothing that was written. And so he took the songwriting credit away when the album came out. So if you look at the single gives proper credit to Greg, but the album doesn't. And it's ridiculous.
Wow, I don't think I knew that story.
Yeah, I didn't.
Put me on game.
It's madness. It's absolute madness. That never should have happened, especially, and that's kind of why I set it up with the fact that, I mean, Greg was, you know, arranging all that stuff that happened with the Jacksons prior to Off the Wall and even after it. Like, dude has worked for you. The least you can do. Like, it's a real shame
that's a shame.
Yeah, unfortunately, man, that's the music game. You know,
very much so.
We hear stories about we've heard stories about that going back to the 30s, man. This is how it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, and we hear it today too. But
right.
I didn't know Mike was living that trife life. Man,
when you have that much power, man, you can do what you want, basically.
Very much true.
Yeah,
and he could, and he did. And I also have to say too, just to change to something more positive, I love the fact that he called in Rod Temperton for this record, because Rod does not fear jazz.
Yeah,
true.
So Rod was throwing in these very heat wave jazz vocal arrangements, which the only person that sounds better on those than Johnny Wilder is Michael Jackson. I mean, that stuff that happens in the chorus of Off the Wall, my gosh, it's just chill bump inducing. Like, those are 5-part vocal harmonies that are being thrown in there, and Michael is just sailing through them, and they're just perfect. And this was before auto-tune. You really had to do it back then. And just gorgeous vocal arrangements, always from Rod Temperton. And
the harmonies and the arrangements. This is what I miss, y'all. This is what I miss.
Yeah, and we really don't have that anymore. But it's different, and that's okay. But I do miss this. I really do, and it's part of what made the record so much fun, I think. And you're right, Dre. I mean, the record did go on, just in this country. I'm cheating, to go on to sell 9 million records. That's not bad. But a funny thing happens.
9 million is insane, actually. That's like, if you're selling 9 million records, you're doing something.
You are, but that's not how Michael Jackson felt.
Exactly. Well, Michael's Michael, different. So right. So the Grammy Awards occurs. The album is nominated for Album of the Year, and it doesn't win. And he goes, "This can never happen again." What won that year? I don't remember. I don't.
I used to.
No, that's 79. What was it? Do you remember it?
Because I just wrote about this a few months ago. It's escaping me.
Because it would have been 80, right?
Yes, it would have been 80.
So it's not Toto. That's later. That was 84. I don't remember.
I'm sure someone is watching this podcast cussing us all out because we can't think of what it is.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We pretend like we know stuff, and then we do this.
Yes.
You know we don't.
I promise y'all, I knew it. I just wrote about it not long ago.
That's terrible. Why don't I know this? Because I'm gonna find out. It's gonna be like, it's so obvious. I know we're just not coming up with it. So of course, then after that record, then Motown cashes in with One Day in Your Life, which was fine, I guess. Because they put that out once they saw how well Off the Wall was doing. We want some too, and you know.
Yes.
Yeah. So was it 81?
It was 81. Yeah. I remembered. But so Michael decides that losing Album of the Year can never ever happen again. After selling 9 million copies just in the U.S. of Off the Wall, he is tripping, and this can never happen again.